Regarding the ethics, we spoke before we started with the interview, we spoke about the ethics. Any shifts for the past few years?
A really interesting thing about our specific project is kind of the journalistic ethics and the codes around that and the perceptions of it. And so what I mean by that is we are a media startup that has kind of deep relationships with the investor community here. My co-founder and executive chairman is probably the most prolific angel investor in Los Angeles. It's one out of every couple of companies that we write about. There is some kind of relationship with those companies. And so journalism should be about finding the truth and shining a light on the truth wherever it goes, right? When I first started at Bloomberg News, they make everyone read Michael Bloomberg's autobiography, and also there's a book called Bloomberg Way, where the editor-in-chief, Matt Winkler, talks about a similar conversation that he had with Michael Bloomberg when Winkler was a bonds reporter at the Wall Street Journal, and Michael Bloomberg was trying to recruit him to start this news organization based on the Bloomberg terminal, which, for those who don't know, is like you pay, anyone related to finance, you pay $20,000 a year for this, terminal that gives, that has a ton of financial data. So as they were talking about this, the anecdote as it was relayed was Winkler, before he agreed to join, gave Michael Bloomberg a hypothetical scenario in which they had uncovered some, true and newsworthy, but negative and unflattering story about the CEO of a bank that was one of the biggest purchasers of Bloomberg terminals, right? And then the CEO of this company hears about this story that's about to be published and calls Michael Bloomberg and says, if this story runs, like, I'm canceling all of these subscriptions, right? And we're no longer going to be a client of Bloomberg. And so he says, Michael, like, what would you do in that situation? Right. And, Bloomberg thinks about it, for a second and then says, okay, so, I mean, if it's true and fair, then do it, and I'll deal with whatever business consequences arise therein. So, I found that passage to be fairly instructive when Spencer and I were first talking about this sort of stuff. When Spencer and I were first talking about this sort of stuff in the very early days, when we were sketching out, what this would look like and how this would work and all that stuff. And so basically I, framed him some version of that question. I was like, so what do you think, how do you think we would play it? He said the same thing. And so we, we both very fundamentally believe in the necessity and the power of independent journalism.